On May 22, 2011, the Joplin Tornado tore into Joplin, Missouri, transforming an ordinary Sunday afternoon into one of the deadliest tornado disasters in modern American history. In less than an hour, an EF5 tornado would rip through the heart of the city, destroying homes, businesses, schools, hospitals, and entire neighborhoods, while thousands of people found themselves fighting to survive a storm unlike anything they had experienced before. But behind the photographs and videos of the destruction were individual stories of families, medical workers, teenagers, first responders, and ordinary residents who suddenly faced decisions that would change their lives forever. This is the story of the deadliest tornado ever caught on camera. Just weeks earlier, the United States had experienced another historic tornado disaster when the 2011 Super Outbreak struck between April 25th and 28th, producing hundreds of tornadoes across the southern and eastern United States and leaving widespread destruction and hundreds of people dead. Images of destroyed communities were still appearing across the country. Families were beginning the difficult process of rebuilding, and the nation was still absorbing the scale of what had happened when another violent tornado disaster was about to unfold. 3 weeks later, life in Joplin, Missouri had returned to its normal rhythm, with the city sitting near the borders of Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma at the center of the four states region. More than 50,000 people called Joplin home, surrounded by neighborhoods, businesses, schools, shopping centers, highways, and hospitals. On Sunday, May 22nd, families spent the afternoon together. People visited restaurants and stores. Children played outside, and residents prepared for another evening at home. It was also a day of celebration, with graduation activities bringing families and students together, creating an atmosphere that felt completely disconnected from the danger developing beyond the city. For most people in Joplin, there was nothing about the afternoon that suggested their community would soon become the scene of one of the most devastating tornadoes ever documented. Above the Great Plains, however, conditions were becoming increasingly dangerous as warm, humid air interacted with a powerful storm system capable of producing a violent supercell and tornado. Meteorologists monitored the developing storm as it moved towards southwest Missouri, and by the afternoon, the threat had become serious enough for watches and warnings to be issued across the region. At 5:17 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning that included Joplin, and just minutes later, at approximately 5:21 p.m., the city's outdoor warning sirens sounded across the community. Residents now had to decide whether the warning required immediate action, while businesses, families, and people still traveling through the city began looking for shelter as the storm approached from the west. At approximately 5:34 p.m., the tornado touched down southwest of Joplin and rapidly intensified as it moved toward the city. By around 5:38 p.m., it was entering the western side of Joplin, snapping trees, bringing down power lines, damaging buildings, and filling streets with debris as it moved into increasingly populated areas. The destruction escalated rapidly as homes were ripped apart, businesses collapsed, vehicles were thrown through the air, and entire neighborhoods were overwhelmed by powerful winds and flying debris. Major roads became difficult or impossible to navigate. Power was disrupted across large sections of the city, and residents sheltered wherever they could find protection as the tornado continued cutting through Joplin. The storm also struck St. John's Regional Medical Center, where doctors, nurses, patients, and hospital staff suddenly found themselves confronting an unprecedented emergency as the building suffered catastrophic damage and normal medical operations were thrown into chaos. Across the city, families crowded into basements and interior rooms, while others found themselves trapped in homes, businesses, vehicles, or other structures as the tornado continued through Joplin. And for some, the hardest part would begin only after the tornado had passed. The tornado carved a path approximately 22 miles long and destroyed nearly 8,000 structures across Joplin, including more than 3,000 residences that were heavily damaged or completely destroyed. Entire neighborhoods were flattened, businesses became scattered debris, vehicles were crushed or thrown from their original locations, and familiar streets became almost impossible to recognize. At St. John's Regional Medical Center, the disaster became a desperate fight to protect patients and medical staff as the tornado struck the hospital directly. Emergency physician Dr. Kevin Kikta recalled taking shelter with a pregnant nurse in a small office as windows shattered, walls collapsed, pipes broke, and the ceiling came down around them during an ordeal that lasted only about 45 seconds. When the tornado passed, doctors and nurses emerged into darkness and immediately began treating the injured, carrying patients from the damaged hospital using sheets, mattresses, wheelchairs, stretchers, and whatever else could be turned into an improvised means of transportation. Medical workers eventually moved toward a makeshift treatment center at Memorial Hall, walking through neighborhoods transformed into fields of debris, while emergency crews and volunteers brought injured survivors to safety. Although St. John's could no longer operate normally, its doctors and nurses continued treating patients after the tornado passed. At a Fastrip convenience store, another group of people faced the tornado from inside a much smaller shelter. As the storm approached, Ruben Carter, a store employee, helped people move into the walk-in cooler, where roughly 24 strangers crowded together while the tornado tore apart the surrounding building. Inside the darkness, people heard screaming, debris striking the structure, and the violent roar of the tornado outside, while Carter continued helping everyone remain together until the storm finally passed. For the people inside that cooler, survival came down to finding one of the few places that could protect them from the storm. But thousands of others across Joplin had no such protection. NIST later found that building failures were responsible for the majority of the deaths, while some residents did not fully recognize the danger, and others struggled to interpret emergency information or determine whether the tornado would actually strike their location. Among those who did not survive was Will Norton, a Joplin High School graduate who had been celebrating one of the most important days of his young life. Will was driving home after graduation when the tornado struck, and his family remembered him not simply for the tragedy of his death, but for the kind and generous person he had been, with his sister describing his smile and laughter as contagious and remembering how much he enjoyed making other people feel welcome. His memory eventually lived on through the Will Norton Miracle Field, created so people of all abilities could play and feel included. Another survivor, 16-year-old Steven Weersing, faced an extraordinary battle after the tornado threw him violently through the storm. Steven survived the initial disaster, but later developed zygomycosis, a rare and potentially fatal fungal infection associated with contaminated wounds, forcing him into a lengthy medical battle that included multiple surgeries and months in the hospital. His father, David, remained beside him throughout the ordeal, helping his son survive not only the injuries caused by the tornado, but also the long recovery that followed. As darkness settled over Joplin, rescuers still had no way of knowing how many people remained trapped beneath collapsed buildings or inside destroyed vehicles. Emergency crews and volunteers moved through the wreckage, searching homes, businesses, and vehicles, while neighbors dug through debris for friends and relatives. The city had become a massive search and rescue operation. When the numbers were finally understood, 161 people had lost their lives and more than 1,000 others had been injured, making the Joplin tornado the deadliest single tornado ever caught on camera in the United States. The tornado was rated EF5, with winds estimated at more than 200 miles per hour, and its destruction produced losses approaching $3 billion, making it the costliest tornado on record as well. But behind every number was a person, a family, and a place in the community that would never be the same. In the years that followed, Joplin became the focus of one of the most detailed investigations ever conducted into a tornado disaster, with researchers examining the storm, damaged buildings, emergency communications, shelter performance, and the decisions people made before and during the tornado. The lessons helped drive recommendations for stronger buildings, better emergency communications, greater access to tornado-safe shelters, and a better understanding of how people respond when warnings are issued. Joplin eventually rebuilt, replacing many destroyed buildings while carrying the memories of those who were lost. The tornado could erase neighborhoods and destroy buildings in minutes, but it could not erase the people who survived, the first responders who helped them, or the stories of courage that emerged from the wreckage. The Joplin tornado remains a reminder that the devastation of a tornado cannot be measured only by wind speed, damage paths, or destroyed buildings, because its greatest impact is measured in the lives suddenly changed when the storm arrives.
161 people's lives were lost, thousands had been injured, and an entire city was forced to rebuild, not only its streets and buildings, but its sense of home.
Thank you for watching EpicWildSphere. If you enjoyed this documentary, consider subscribing for more in-depth stories exploring history's most powerful tornadoes and the people whose lives were changed by them. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next documentary.